So I'm sitting here having some coffee, and some things developed yesterday that were very important. That revealed that there are some serious problems with how the Ukrainians are wielding their power here in Ukraine. It doesn't mean that the people don't need help. They do need help, the people. But the men who have power are abusing their power. And we see that with the Czechs. They went to the border, and the medics, they have medic cars that they drive even across the border, back and forth. And sometimes they take people to the border if they can't walk or something like that. And so this one mother showed up with her son who had a leg that he had hurt and couldn't walk, and so they let them get into the medical car. They got to the border, to the Ukrainian guards, and they gave all the papers, including the papers for the mother and the son, to the guards. Now here's the problem, is that any men under 60 and over 18 and over, have to stay in the country. They're not allowed out because they have to fight, unless they have a medical exemption. Well, this young man had a medical exemption from the military medical officer. And some guy started talking a little louder over here. So anyway, he gave the papers to the border guard, and it took like 4 hours, I guess. They were there, and then the guard came out, and then maybe it was a different one. They changed shift or something, but he came out, said, open the car. He looked inside and saw the boy and said, "You're in trouble," to the driver. "You're in trouble for trying to smuggle someone across." Well, that wasn't the case at all. But they arrested the Czechs and charged them with trying to smuggle. And so they were in court yesterday, and this one girl that I do some work with and help sometimes from the Czech Republic was there translating, and they had a translator who was old and couldn't hear and couldn't translate correctly, and that's all they could get, and she kept trying to correct him. And the courts finally said something about her not having a degree from Ukraine, and therefore she's not official. And there was kind of this implication that they might arrest her, but they didn't, and they didn't give anyone any breaks. The whole day they were in court, and she collapsed. They had to call an ambulance and carry her out. So those Czechs have very little, I don't think they have any contact with the Czech embassy. In fact, they asked her to contact the Czech embassy and help them get in touch with them. So there's this abuse of power going on, and I saw it with the soldiers up on the border. And every single soldier who came up there while I was there was unprofessional, was harassing the people, especially foreigners. They were antagonizing foreigners in particular, every soldier at the crossing. Then I heard this report that they said some Russian soldiers put on Ukrainian soldier outfits and started shooting or harassing citizens, civilians, out in the middle of Ukraine. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. I do believe that it was Ukrainian soldiers who were hyped up on their power and hyped up on the situation and were offended by someone who was a civilian, a Ukrainian civilian, and they started mistreating them. That I do believe. And that's what it looks like. And the story is being twisted around to try to imagine that some Russians put on the soldiers. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that. No, absolutely not. First off, the uniforms would have to fit. And the likelihood of that is not very high. So, and why would they do that? For what reason? To make Ukrainians? No. That's a theory that's far out there. No, I don't believe that. So anyway, they don't have to do that because they're killing civilians themselves, the Russian soldiers. Why would they have to do that for Ukrainians? And make them look bad? Like it wouldn't matter. They don't care. They killed 20,000 civilians in Mariupol with artillery. They started by bombing and destroying the maternity hospital with pregnant women in it and children. Why would the Russians care about image? They don't care. But the Ukrainian soldiers and those who are in charge, not all of them, but there are some of them and enough of them who are abusing their power. And like we've got reports from other foreigners, like the Indian students who were actually beaten, and the M16s were fired off over them. So that was egregious. And then some of them were not even allowed to see their consulars. I wasn't. They actually outright told me I couldn't. And I'm standing there on the border, insisting to talk to the American consular. And I knew ahead of time from research that he was there. And they refused to allow me access to him or to call him or anything like that. They told me I had to stay there. They were holding me, detaining me in the crowd without singling me out and pulling me aside. They were detaining me because they wouldn't let me go. Everyone else was being allowed to go. I wasn't allowed to go. I wasn't allowed to talk to the consular. And I'm not the only one. It got even worse with some other people. So this is the dark side of what's going on with a few people who have power here in Ukraine. And that needs to stop. If the Ukrainians want to continue to win the hearts of the world and keep the hearts of the world, they need to stop that. And they need to fix that. They need to punish those people who have abused their power. But they won't. That's not how it goes here. Anyway, this is kind of a harsh video, but it needs to be said. And I want you to know that I'm being transparent about what's going on here so that you know the real situation here on the ground. And don't forget, I set up the 2 pages for donations. If you want to donate money to the humanitarian aid, you can. If you want to donate money to me to help support me while I'm not working and I'm out here in the field, that would be great. And you can do either one-time or recurring donation as well. And I'm not pressuring anyone. Just if your heart feels like it, do it. And if not, not. And you're welcome to continue following the channel and watching the videos, keeping updated on what things are really like here in Ukraine on the ground.